Hello world. This right here, right now, is the joy of being a live stream coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. And if you're watching this anywhere on earth other than twitch.tv/deepmindfulness, please join us over here. This is where we will be having our conversation. Welcome, folks. If you're just joining us, let us know where you're coming from, where you're joining us from in this world of ours. We're here hunkered down in our Brooklyn bunker. Just having fun connecting with each other, doing a little bit of meditation, making our funny camera point in the right direction. Having a good time. So folks, we're going to be meditating for about 25 minutes in a few minutes. But first, we're just going to say hello. Lewis from Sheffield. Great to see you here. It's been a little while. It's nice to have you here back with us. Of course, we have our co-host here. Some of you might not know. Our co-host is named Colin. Colin has been such a friendly, nice supporter of us for so long that it's lovely to have Colin here with us. Okay, let me get this. Tord Helsingang in Norway. If you have a more direct name, let me know. It's Tord. There you go. Very straightforward. Tord, welcome. Great to see you here. Glad to have you. As folks are beginning to trickle in, letting us know where you're coming from, how you doing, how's your day today, and what's happening. It's a very interesting moment in our world. Raquel and I, have fought through the lines at the grocery stores and, done our various activities. We have a fridge full of food. We don't know how long that'll last, but if anyone is not in this, having this exact same experience, we are pretty hunkered down here. We are, we're preparing for probably 2 weeks in the house, but it's the news is we don't know how long it's going to be. So I don't know what different people are experiencing. Maybe we'll get into that. Maybe people can tell us about how they're experiencing what's going on if they haven't personal circumstances. And as we're beginning here, just let us know where folks are sort of coming in. Oh, the company I work for has gone full work from home mode. Landon, welcome. From California, that's lovely. I know that you're usually up in the Northeast, so it's nice that you got a little California time. Hopefully you're in a safe place. Part of what we don't know is sort of how long this process will go on, how long it'll last, and sort of what it means. Hopefully there are I'm sure like everything, there's going to be some upside. I think one of the pieces of upside is that people are going to become much more comfortable working remotely, and companies are going to be much more comfortable doing that. So hopefully that'll give people a little bit more mobility. But today we're going to have a special topic and focus in particular on what's going on for us and how do we use the skills of meditation to bring ourselves a bit more peace, keep ourselves safe. There's a really close correlation between the level of stress that we're experiencing and how strong our immune system is. So on a very literal level, using meditation to keep ourselves healthy and to navigate this world skillfully. Nick, welcome, joining us from Gothenburg, Sweden, visiting the old dad. Well, hello to dad. Tell him hello, and tell him we're all glad that you're there to visit. So folks, we're going to start in just a moment. We're going to meditate for about 25 minutes. If you're not used to meditating that long, don't worry, we gotcha. It's not going to be impossible. And in fact, it's going to be quite fun and easy, and we'll do it together. And if at any point you need to stop, feel free to just make any slight adjustments. Sometimes the body's like, I can't stay still. So you can make a little adjustment to make the body more comfortable and see if you can dive back in. And know that often the mind will say, I can't do it. And it's just chattering. It's not a big deal. So we're going to be practicing, and typically I'm going to recommend that people practice in stillness, so finding a way to hold the body still for the duration of the sit, so that we aren't actively moving. The reason being is that helps train the mind towards stillness as well. And what I would recommend also is that you're not in meditation jail, so if you need to move, just wait a few breaths before you do, so you're not doing so unconsciously. So we'll be sitting in stillness. And also, we're in the middle of a series right now. So typically we guide meditations in series. And the series we're on right now is equanimity or inner peace. And so I wanted to give a little background for the meditation because I won't be able to give this in the instruction, in part because we're recording all of these and it's instruction we've already given a few times. So, oh my goodness, we have a follow from Alan Arcier. Wait, Alana? You could read it so many ways. Alana Rancier. Let me know if you have another particular name. And also, folks, feel free to follow. If you're here, this means you can get updates when we go live. And it's also lovely to have people connected. It feels like we're part of a group. After the... Alina. There we go. Alina from Brooklyn. Good to see you. Nice to have you here. Afterwards, we're going to chat, and we can chat through text if you like, or our good friend Tomalin is going to give us a link here for the Discord, and we can chat by voice, which is often we can get into a little more detail that way. So finding a nice comfortable position, something we can maintain for the duration of the practice. So a little bit of background on this practice. We're talking about this idea of the multiple self model. It sounds really fancy, but ultimately it's just the fact that we have these sort of effective different parts of ourself that are often trying to exert themselves. They're often trying to, take control because that part of ourselves thinks that it has all the answers. So one thing you might find is that, if we're stressed out or if we're, nervous in some way, maybe we're nervous about some current, events happening. Often the nervous, like the sort of nervous part of ourselves will say this, I have to be in control. I have to run everything. I have to stay up all night looking at, reading research. And we know that that's not the only part of ourselves. We have parts of ourselves that are quite calm and chill. So we're going to be listening to and looking at the underlying needs of those parts because, we have a lovely follow here from, Catherine Ebb. Well, thank you so much for following. It's great to have you here with us. So what that particular part might be saying, hey, listen, I'm the sort of king here. I'm the number one person, and if you don't listen to me, then the whole world will be chaos. It's often like, you have to listen to me, listen to me. So the underlying need of that particular self is often a very simplistic one. It's often very childish. And I don't mean childish in a pejorative. I mean childish like need to be heard, need to feel safe, need to be cared for. So we're going to be looking for what the underlying need is underneath all of that, and then sort of opening up to that need. The way we're going to do that is we're going to first, I'll develop a little contact with the experience of awareness. Awareness is sort of like a zoomed out relationship to what's happening. And from there, just from that awareness, it's less stuck inside that particular self. So that's what we're generally going to be doing here. Oh yeah, we just released a YouTube video, so hopefully that was fun and helpful for people. As my table collapses under the weight of itself. Folks, so find that nice comfortable position that you can maintain. Oh, Catherine from Baltimore. Oh, Catherine's a very old friend. Thank you so much for joining, Catherine. It's so lovely to have you here. That's so great. Catherine was a very huge help to me when I was younger. She was just very kind and supportive. So thank you so much for joining. It's really lovely to have you here. Oh, and then, greetings from Kenya. Dave, thank you so much for joining us. Good to have you here. First confirmed case of corona today in Kenya. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, folks, so let's do a little practice and then we'll get to chit-chat. So finding that nice comfortable position. When you're ready, just gently closing the eyes. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and just feeling the body rise and fall. Each time we arrive at a meditation, we arrive with the momentum of all of the previous moments. And the way that we exit the torrent of that momentum is observing the experiences of our current sensations. So, starting at the top of the head, relax the brow. Relax the muscles behind the eyes, allowing the eyes to drop down just a millimeter. Relaxing the face, allowing it to go smooth. Relaxing the back of the tongue, just allowing gravity to pull the tongue just slightly back and down. And letting go of the jaw, no need to hold the mouth closed. Letting go of the neck and the shoulders. The upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, and relaxing the hands. Tuning into the subtle sensations in the palms of the hands, tips of the fingers. Letting go of any attempt to control the breath, just letting the body breathe as it will. Noticing the natural tightening and relaxing of the upper chest and upper back as the breath comes and goes. Relaxing the belly and the lower back. Relaxing the hips and the upper legs. The knees and calves. The ankles, and relaxing the feet. And so far we've tuned into particular parts of the body. So we're going to shift our awareness to include all sensations in the body. And to do this, we need to zoom out just a bit. Not so worried about any particular sensation, just the collection. This large pool. All body sensations. If we notice any particular sensation, simply letting it melt into the context of all of the other sensations. This more zoomed out perspective is what we might describe as awareness. And awareness tends to be experienced as softer, larger than any particular detail. And at times our attention will be drawn towards particular sensations. That's not a problem, just again letting those sensations be experienced among all the other sensations, showing us our way back to awareness. Noticing that awareness doesn't need anything to be different. It's simply aware. It's the part of our experience that knows what's occurring. So whatever enters awareness is simply known. We're going to spend some time with awareness and allow this awareness to be caring, to be a gentle, accepting force. Because it doesn't need anything to be different. You can simply hold the experience without a pressure for us to change. And of course, the mind observes experiences by contrast. So if we have contact with this neutral, open knowing, the mind might often show us parts of us that do want things to be different. This can come in the form of resistance, the mind saying, "This is silly. I should be doing something else." Or emotional resistance, simply pushing something about this moment away. Tuning into and observing the part of us that would like any aspect of what's occurring now to be different. Not listening to its narrative, just knowing it's there. So this process will be a bit of a dialogue between these two processes of the mind. The awareness, which simply knows, is gentle, open, and caring. And the part of us that will naturally resist or push back. It's not bad. It's just a different experience. And from awareness, we might direct a phrase towards our experience of self. Lately, I've liked, I see you, and I'll care for you just the way you are. I see you, and I'll care for you just the way you are. Simply repeating this phrase and directing it towards the part of our experience that does want or need things to be different, is nervous or anxious, fearful, or scared. If we notice this phrase or sentiment isn't perfectly easy to accept, it doesn't simply become absorbed by our entire system, it's not a problem. In fact, it's helpful. Noticing that part of our system is pushing back. That part that's pushing back is also part of us. And so listening, intuiting what the underlying need of that part is. Is it safety? Is it to be heard or cared for? And from awareness, intuiting the phrase that might soothe that part. In my mind, the phrase that arose, that felt right, is, I'm right here. I'm right here. And I have immediate feedback as to whether the phrase is working, because it soothes even just slightly that self that feels scared, lost, or concerned. Just repeating the phrase over and over, gently from a place of kind awareness. Knowing that pushback, resistance is likely to arise. And this could even be in the form of distraction, just being pulled away. It could be in the form of feeling like we're struggling to find the exact right phrase. And often that part that's struggling is expressing a need. So recognizing that these distractions may be part of this less resourced, more vulnerable self, and simply directing our kind phrase there. Often it's the more vulnerable part that sees itself as separate. And that's okay. Just knowing that from the position of this larger, caring awareness, it doesn't need to be separate, exiled, or pushed away. Just letting this kind awareness suffuse any part that's arising, like a gentle mist that's mixing into the sensations of any particular part that seems separate. Letting this kind awareness be this mist whose particles intermix with all of our experiences. Now, not worrying about directing our kind phrase towards any particular part, just letting this phrase echo in every direction, all of our sensing experiences, every distraction, every discomfort. Letting this kind awareness simply hold everything, every experience that shows us we exist in this moment. Letting that part of us may feel like it has unmet needs simply be part of this large sensing experience. Recognizing that whatever we're experiencing is simply nature. It's not good or bad. Just the ordinary expression of a human body-mind. And staying with the practice, staying in stillness, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes, eventually allowing them to rest on one point as they fully open. Letting the openness of the seeing experience allow us to expand our awareness. And letting this moment here, with our eyes open, be the teacher that shows us how to bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay, so as we begin to transition, just make any adjustments to your body that would allow you to be comfortable. Unfurl your body if you were sitting in a strange way, if the body's uncomfortable. So there's a few different ways that I can know about your experience. One is to have a very, very powerful magnifying glass. And if the sun is shining in the exact right angle, I hold the magnifying glass in the exact right angle, I can shine that into your brain and read your thoughts. Or so I've heard. But a much more practical much more direct way for me to know what happened for you, to be able to offer any support, is if you tell me. There are a few different ways of telling me. One is simply right here in the chat. Hello and welcome, folks. Another one is in our Discord, which all Discord is a fancy term for a place where we can chat using our voices. We're trying to set it up so we can chat directly in the live stream and without having to jump over to Discord. But right now, Discord is our best option, which I actually really like it a lot. What'll happen if you follow the link that Tamerlan is posting right as we speak, you'll be put in the welcome page. You may have to make an account. That's okay. You can use a fake name if you want. You don't have to. And then from there, you can just jump into the voice waiting room. And then if you want to chat, I will voice waiting room, and then I can drag you over into the voice thing, and we can chat a little bit about your experience, get into some details, or just let me know in the chat what happened. My best reporting, my favorite reporting prompt is, what happened, what do you like? What happened, what was it like, and what do you like now? And of course, no pressure. Well, folks gather their thoughts. Stay right there. I think I'm going to grab the puppy. If folks haven't met our puppy yet, she's very excellent for meditation. So I think it's going to be about 30 seconds. I'm going to come back with this puppy. 1 sec. Talk amongst yourselves. Oof, I'm back. Okay. This puppy's like schlumped over my leg before I bring her up here. Covered in wires. A little schlumpy. So this is Sila. Sila is the Sanskrit word for any movement towards goodness of any kind. No, look at this little super dog. What a cutie. She's so adorable. She got these little white socks. And I noticed this recently. I hadn't even noticed this. I don't know if you can see it with the harness on. You probably can't. I'll remove this sucker. She resists putting the harness on. She resists taking the harness off. I always think that's funny. She has this white chest stripe, which I had never seen before. Can you see it? Oops, sorry, baby. It's right under her neck. Look at this funny chest stripe. I've never seen that before. So predominant. Okay, Catherine says, thank you. Just found you while I came in today, and I'm so grateful for the meditation and for hearing your voice. Well, as always, it's lovely to have you here. Oh, you have a new one. What kind of pup do you have there, Catherine? This is a miniature schnauzer. This little guy. Hello. You don't know we're on the internet, do you? Oh, he makes the cutest little snuffle noises. See if you can hear it. Like all the time, you're just going like... David says, hi again. Sometimes when I have some resistance, for example now, I tend to do some unnecessary movement, like making fists tighter. Oh, that's a great observation. Do I label them or just notice? So that's actually a great thing to notice. So what we're doing in this particular practice, this is different than some practices, but this particular practice, what we're doing is we're first getting attuned with the experience of awareness and this kind awareness. And then from there, recognizing, okay, well, that's a little different than when a self arises, or a particular part of ourselves arises. So when we notice resistance, and that resistance is natural, like whenever we come to something from a position, like if I say, like, the mind notices contrast, right? That's how it sort of notices things. If I say, everyone experiences this puppy as cute, no one has a different experience. Like, the mind is immediately going to point towards, like, no, it's not my experience, or yeah, it's sort of cute, but it'll point out something else. So we're bringing this kind phrase in, knowing that the mind will push back. And the way that it's pushing back is actually, let's see. I'm getting a double. So Catherine says she's getting a double feed. Let me know what that means, if it's audio, double audio, or something like that. That's a possibility. Let's see. Okay, so the pushback that it's going to give is going to be in resistance to this kindness, basically, which is quite common when people often do like a heart practice, or a practice where they're, where they're being, kind to themselves, or saying kind words. These sort of, like, the mind will push back and say, this is stupid. Why are you doing this? This is a bad idea. And often it's the part of ourselves that doesn't feel safe with, that kind of kindness. So just to notice that that's occurring, you can label it, but you can actually just recognize the impulse to tighten the fist. And why is it tightening a fist? Especially, and it's sort of symbolic, right? It's usually trying to keep itself safe, or trying to, resist in some way. So just noticing that the system is doing that. That's not a problem. It's just that it's doing that, and it's pointing towards typically a need for maybe safety, or to feel heard, or these kind of things. So in this practice today, we're looking for that underlying need, and then trying to meet it with whatever kind words we could. And we didn't have to even necessarily hear. Sometimes we listen to that self say what it wants to say. Maybe it's like, I don't like this. This is no good. And listen to what's the need underneath that. So we're looking for that underlying need and letting them effectively dialogue back and forth. She looks much bigger than she is, I think. Because I always hold her in front of me. She looks like her head is the same size as my giant noggin. This is also a type of self-arising. Is this a type? I'm not sure exactly what you're saying. Was this a type of self that's arising? You say this. I'm not sure what you mean. Any other questions, folks? You can tell us what your experience was like, or ask any meditation questions. We're today talking about and processing. Basically, we're in this pretty strange, cultural moment where a lot of us are in quarantine, or self-quarantine, or self-isolation, these kind of things. And it can be scary, honestly. I think that that's pretty valid, given everything that's going on. So how do we navigate that skillfully in a way that doesn't cause ourselves or other people's more harm? And yeah, that's what we're here to talk about. So please let me know if you have any questions related to that. Okay, so you're asking, is making the fist type of an arising self? My guess is it's an expression of an arising self. And the thing we really want to look for is the underlying need, because the needs are always wholesome. So, right, you might make a fist, and somebody might be, this self might be arising to protect itself, and it might punch somebody, right? We can imagine that. The need underneath that is wholesome. It's the execution and what it does to other people, which is problematic. So when we're scared about, this virus, or we're scared of what we do, or we're like, oh my God, what does this mean? That impulse is wholesome. It's the execution that's very problematic. It's the execution that says, I feel like I want to stay safe, so I'm going to punch somebody in the face. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, that was a pretty poor decision, but the underlying instinct, the underlying need is important. So whether it's a expression of an underlying self, it sounds like it probably could be, just to look underneath and say, what is the underlying need here, and how can I meet that need from the perspective of this kind awareness that doesn't need things to be so different. It just actually experiences them sort of more directly. Lewis says, I read Feeding Your Demons by Lama Allione recently, and it's a similar process, but yours is easier and more streamlined. Well, that's because I'm the greatest. No, I'm just kidding. Identified the wants and needs of the mental activities, and letting them feed on what they need in you. Yeah, and this is, I mentioned before, but often people do heart practices and loving kindness practices, and what happens is they feel this voice comes up and is like, this is stupid, or why are you doing this, or like, I have one student, one of my private students, who frequently says, they're meditating, and then it's like, are you really doing it right? What do you mean, like, may you be peaceful? Is this really, like whatever the thing is, it's always this sort of self that's doubting and judging and like, no, I don't really think this isn't right. Something's wrong here, which indicates a couple of things. One, it has a sense of what is right, what should be done, even if we don't know exactly what that is. But also, it has a stake in the ground. Things should be done like X. So when we're, for instance, right now, if, like I said, nervousness about the, virus and these kind of things, there's a part of us that's like, I need to X, Y, and Z. So it's helpful to look at what is the underlying need there and meet the need, because then the execution won't occur. The classic example is drug addiction, where I think I've mentioned this on the stream before, but it's like, okay, my need is to feel connected, to have a spiritual experience, and to have lots of fun. Well, I'm going to smoke cocaine. It's like, whoa. Like, those needs are valid, but the execution is really problematic. And that's what a lot of the time happens in recovery programs. There was recently this article in the New York Times about 12-step programs in particular and how they're quite effective. What happens in a lot of those kinds of programs is the needs will be met. The need for people to have a community, to have a purpose where they're helping people and helping, just being of support of other people. A need for having a sense of purpose in the world. Oh, look at my puppy yawn. I don't know if you saw that. You're a cute little yawn. I need to have a purpose in the world, and so those needs get met, and so then the execution, which is the drug addiction or the substance use, goes away. It's not needed anymore. So yeah. Any other questions or reports? Let me make sure no one's over here in Discord waiting to chit-chat like a kitty cat. Nope, that's not Discord. Let's see here. Okay, we're green. We're okay there. What was Raquel saying? Oh, Raquel was actually talking about this thing really earlier, which I thought was really fascinating. Was that there was oh, thanks, Catherine. Is that she's doing her PhD. She's doing her dissertation proposal, and the timeline got pushed up from 1 year and 2 months to 2 months. So she's actually towards the end of that 2-month period now. She's still working really hard, but she's doing something that is not actually directly related to what we're doing today. She's doing something related to the multiple self, but it's internal family systems is what we're talking about, the sort of more clinical version of what we're describing. And it's not so widely accepted in her community. It's a pretty well understood sort of process, but it's not in her community. It's not super widely accepted, and so she's having to push for things that she believes in, but doesn't necessarily have a lot of support for. And the pushback internally is like this thing of like, the typical fears that humans feel when they are in a community, and the community, it feels like, might be saying, no, we don't like what you're doing, or we're not familiar with this, or it feels sort of alien in some way. And it indicates a few things. One is that she wants to do this thing. This is important to her. And two, that the community around her might not be the place to look for the assurance that she needs if it's sort of pushing back in the opposite direction. So that's just an indication. So often, and we've talked a lot about this before, but the principle of contrast, the mind will show you its opposite. This, I think, in DBT, dialectical behavioral theory, or DBT. Oh, hey, we got a new follow here from Grammy Dean. Welcome, Grammy Dean. Nice to have you here. Grammy Dean says, I'm feeling so much more angry than at a usual for me. When doing the heart practice, I felt so sad. Okay, so look, this is very, very useful. Very useful information. And I'll return to what I was saying a second ago, which is that in DBT, dialectical behavioral theory, I think it's theory. What I was going to say is, I'm going to put the dog down. I probably shouldn't, because it's just going to run and eat something. The dog doesn't usually, we don't usually let the dog just roam around. And now it's trying to drink from my mug. Okay. So the dialectical in that conversation is that the mind will, oops, okay, this is what the dog, as soon as you put the dog down, that's how long it took. The dog now has a therapy. Of course, Catherine got it right. Okay, so the dialectical there is talking about how the mind will often show you the opposite. It'll show you the other thing. So, for instance, you can tell that I'm speaking right now because there's only one of my voice in silence. If there was 1,000 of my voices, you could not hear my voice. It would just be totally drowned out. So there's a way in which my voice points to the silence. And the silence points to the voice. These things depend on each other and they interact in a supportive way. So what's happening when you do this kind phrase in this moment, you're feeling a lot of anger and you're feeling a lot of sadness. So the system is simply showing you that there is a part of you that exists. It's not even a part of you that needs to be resolved or a part of you that needs to go away. There is a part that exists and it's pushing back at this process. Typically in meditation, you'll say, well, the part that's pushing back, we got to get rid of that. Ignore that. We don't want to pay attention to that. Just pay attention to the thing we're trying to pay attention to. And then you're a good meditator. Well, we're actually using the quote unquote problem to point at something. Hey, it looks like maybe there's a self arising or a part that's arising that needs something, that has an underlying need that might not be being met. So looking at that underlying, that self that's arising, and taking a look at what the need is, what's underneath that. And like I said earlier, the needs are often very, very simple. And that self can be telling us something, oh, this is terrible, what's wrong with you, or whatever. But when the self says, hey, what's wrong with you, right? It's saying, well, there is some right place somewhere over here, and if we went in that right place, things would be better. So it's a drive for things to be better. Why? Maybe that self doesn't feel like reality is good for it. It feels really yucky. It feels like reality is very hard. So looking at that underlying need in that way, oh, we got to follow from M60. M60, great to, M60 underscore. Great to have you here. Thanks for following. Nice to have you among us. So hopefully that helps clarify a little bit. Nick says, are all of these parts selves actually looking out for you? Even that's exactly right. Even though the results may be catastrophic, like the crack smoking self, seems like instant gratification is a common theme of the wholesome ones. Yes. So here's something to consider, that all of these selves, all of these parts, they think they're the only part in the world. And I sometimes think of it like a little kid, a little child inside of a tank, and it doesn't know that everything might be fine around it. You know, there's just, oh, you little, like this little guy, right? She thinks like she's got to do something. She's got to crawl. She's got to climb because something needs to be done. We talk a lot about that in meditation. There's some parts of ourselves that need to move forward. They need to grip. So what that's typically doing is wanting to push in a certain direction. That doesn't mean we have to let them rule our lives, but it is helpful to know that often there's a need in there. So Raquel has this, one of my favorite examples is Raquel saying she has one self that wants to do her PhD. She has another self that wants to chill out and have her friends, right? And they're sometimes in conflict with each other. So what she looked at very closely was, what is the need of that self that I need to sort of sublimate to some degree, this self that wants connection and peace and that kind of thing, and to try to meet those needs in ways that aren't destructive, exactly like you're saying, without using drugs, etc., or escaping or watching 1,000 hours of Netflix or any of the things we do. Anytime, if you can think of any behavior that we fall into that we're like, ugh, wish I hadn't done that, wish I hadn't ate all those pints of ice cream or whatever, those are all indicating that there's some need there that's not being met. And from a more sort of I don't want to say wholesome, but maybe a more resourced self, we might say, hey, what's the underlying need and how might I meet that need? If the need is to feel safe, how could I we can ask that now. Safety is such a common, important feature for a human being. So how could I make myself feel safe right now? Just in the simplest way. Is there a way that I could hold my body that would make me feel a little more safe? For me, I don't know, it's wiggling around like a weird worm. But is there a way that I could do that? Is there a way that I could, today, if I want to feel heard, that's often a really important part of a need. How could I feel heard? Oh, I could call someone that I care about, right? I could be authentic with somebody that I know it's safe to be authentic with. And by meeting that need over and over again, often that part doesn't feel like it needs to exert itself. It doesn't need to eat the ice cream. It doesn't need to, etc. So it's this classic component that is in mindfulness, which is more consciousness typically means more freedom. So we're being conscious of, okay, what is the actual underlying need, and not worrying so much about the narrative. Oh, it says that I should, send this revenge email, but it's like, that's the narrative. And a lot of what meditation is about is getting outside of the narrative and connecting with the underlying experience. And that is sort of that's what we could talk about is mindfulness, or the path of awakening, or that kind of thing. All right, I got to put this squirmy wormy back into her little pen. Say goodbye. Say goodbye with your little smooth noises. I don't know if you can hear that. She's like, okay, I'll be back in 30 seconds. She's squirmy. Oh, look at her squirm. I'm back. Okay, folks, so any other questions, reports, that kind of thing? So before we slide away into the ether here, I want to mention, in less than 48 hours, big special thing happening. We're going to be right back here in the same bat time, same bat place, 11 a.m. Monday Eastern, to chit-chat. Whatever we want to talk about, more meditation, more, how to live a fulfilling life. Because for me, it's not about being a better meditator. It's about having a more fulfilling life. We also just put out a video on our YouTube channel, which I don't know if is the code. Can we type the code in here? Does that punch up our YouTube channel? I don't know. That should, but it might not. One of these should. Well, Tom Mullen's with us. He'll put the YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/deepmindfulness is the. Thank you so much, Nick. That's on our main channel. Our second channel is youtube.com/deepmindfulness2. That's where the replays for these come. If you ever want to watch one when it's past the time, it's on youtube.com/deepmindfulness2. We just put out a little video. It's about a 5-minute video talking, and it was from a previous live stream, talking about how meditation is very, very much, and the progress of meditation is very much like the process of learning skateboarding tricks. I came in to browse about the virus and found your note that you would be here. I'm so grateful. Well, Catherine, that's so great. That's wonderful to hear. Oh, P.S. If you're watching this on any other platform, Facebook or YouTube, and your comments aren't coming through, let me know, because we don't know. That's the general. Oh, Nick posted the link. Thank you. I thought it was a link to the specific video, but if you go there, you'll see that we have a new video that just came out, and you'll also see that here in the comments what's it called? A link to our top 7 guided meditations. Here's a pro tip. I haven't fixed this yet, and Tomlin, help me remember to fix this, which is that we actually have 15 new ones that are my primary ones. We got to fix this because it always comes up and says, here's 7 free guided meditations. The actual ones that we really recommend is these other ones. So that said, let me know if you want me to send you those, and I will send you a link to that. In fact, actually, no, I'll send you a link right now. I think it's already up in our other section. So it's deepmindfulness.io. Geez, is it audio video? Okay, sorry. Go here, hit the audio video section, and it's the first thing there. It should be the first thing. It has our guided meditations if you'd like those. I know that Catherine, I think we talked about that recently, that you took a look at those. I really appreciate that. So folks, in less than 48 hours, we're going to be back here chit-chatting like kitty cats and having a good time. I'm going to put on our outro music, but that doesn't mean I'm not here. I'm actually going to be right here in the background saying hello Folks, it was lovely to be here with you. Thank you so much for joining us. We had some lovely follows. M60 _, Grammy Dean, Zazani. I don't even know if we said hi to Zazani. Thank you so much for joining along with us. It's so nice to have you here.